Mr. Hendricks?
Here.
Mrs. McDaniel? Here. Mrs. Peterson? Mr. Stoffer? Mr. Weilich?
Here.
Mrs. Schiffel?
Here. Can I get a motion to approve the October 3rd, 2022 agenda?
Jennifer, if you can make the motions, just, there you go. It's hard for them to hear.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mr. Hendricks?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Weilich?
Yes.
Mrs. Schiffel?
Yes. Commendation and good news.
So, we have some very successful activities going on right now. So our football team is still undefeated and ranked number 1. Volleyball team is ranked number 4. Our cross country and swim teams look like they're going to be able to make some noise at district and hopefully have several state qualifiers. Our marching band has competed very, very well so far this year. I think they've won a couple marching band competitions. They just returned back from Missouri, is that correct? And did very well down there as well. And then basically all of our other groups, show choir, our play, they're all in full rehearsal mode right now. And so it's just a very exciting time. I always love this time of year because everybody's just kind of a buzz with things that are going on, and everything we do seems to be done very well. So I've also been in several classrooms, and our teachers are just, they are incredibly engaging for our students, and students seem like they just are really enjoying being here. And so just really overall it's been an excellent start to the school year. I mean, continues to be an excellent start to the school year. I'm going to knock on wood a little bit, and then yeah, that's about it. Just very positive all around.
Okay, anyone else? All right, we'll go to comments and suggestions. This is the first time during our board meeting that anyone in the audience or anyone online, if they want to type something in that can, they can address the board. Okay, hearing none, we'll go on to our consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Do we have an updated personnel sheet?
There's an updated personnel sheet, and you do have an additional fundraiser form as well.
Okay, any discussion? Vote, please.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Weilich?
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks?
Yes.
Mrs. Schiffel?
Yes. Reports, 6.01, superintendent report.
Okay, so I'm gonna kind of, because we're kind of on the tail end of our construction projects, I kind of took that out of a standalone item. And then I'm gonna kind of talk about that along with my superintendent report. A couple things I'm gonna talk about tonight. One includes open enrollment. So today, or not open enrollment, but our certified enrollment. Today is count day, which means that this is officially the day that if you're in our district, and that's kind of what our funding is based off when we start developing next year's budget. And so, as of right now, and the site was down for much of the day, so hopefully we'll have that, some firm numbers for us, but I believe Mr. Black said that we are going to be up a handful of students, so that's great. In a time where a lot of people are losing students, it's great to be up, so.
Yes.
That's the technical term.
Yes.
Because that's about as close as I can get right now.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
right. So that's positive. That means we have a growing population. Another thing I'm going to talk about is when it comes to our facilities, we have the auditorium is getting closer to being done. We do have a couple of larger purchases yet to make, and those are things that it's always been our responsibility. So I believe we have some lighting that's yet to be purchased, like spotlights and those types of things that we do after the fact, so we don't have to pay the additional fee for procurement through the construction company. So if we buy it after the fact, we can just get the regular cost for it. So a few of those are storage items, spotlights, and then we do have our pianos yet that we need to purchase. And so I'll let Dave talk a little bit about kind of where we're at with those purchases, because he's kind of headed that up.
Sure. The spotlights are follow spotlights. There are, I have bids from 2 companies. We'll order those probably tomorrow. And they're small enough purchases, they don't require prior board approval. The large ticket items are instruments, or pianos, right? We've gotten a pretty good idea of what's available in town. And they range from anywhere from $120,000 to $80,000 for new instruments. We do have a line on 2 different used instruments in this whole picture too, that are in excellent shape. We are actually seeking some professional opinion on one of those used instruments in the hope that it's a high-quality instrument suitable for the space that would then afford us perhaps to get a second grand piano, smaller grand piano also, so we would be able to equip both the black box and the main auditorium stage with quality instruments, and still stay well within the budget amount that we had originally talked. But we're going to wait to make any of those decisions, of course, until our evaluation is done of the used instruments first. What we certainly don't want to do is put an instrument in there that folks are not going to be happy with. So if it's a used instrument, it needs to be a high-quality instrument that can last us for 50 years.
Yep, and so that's where we're seeking some outside guidance, because they would bring them into our space, but it's about $750 each time for each piano you bring into the space that they have to haul in and haul out. So, so we have to do as much research as we can with it in the space that it's at. The idea for 2 pianos really comes down to what happens if we have multiple groups going on at the same time, or what happens if, like for instance, the auditorium, the size of the auditorium really calls for a large piano, like a 9-foot piano, which would be way too big for the black box theater. And so in having, kind of what the conversation has turned to is, as long as they're very high quality instruments, and we don't oversee we don't go over the budget that we had originally set, I'm open to the idea for maybe 2 pianos versus 1, but just has to be the right combination. So, so anyway, so they're continuing to work forward, but we will have something for you for sure on the 17th, because we need to be able to set up something for them to deliver right after that, so that way we can get them tuned in time for our performances that we have coming up, so.
Yeah, the first opportunity, actually, there's an opportunity perhaps on the 19th of October. We won't make that one, but our first choir concert is November 1st. So we want to have a good quality instrument in place for that concert.
Yep. Next thing we have is the middle school project. So HGM did get back to me with the 60%, or what they call the 60% phase, where they have 60% of the drawings completed, which at that point they can start giving some estimates for what what those spaces are going to cost. And the estimates are significantly higher than what was originally discussed back in March when you approved the work to have the drawings made up. So at this point, my recommendation is, instead of running forward with those projects, which was the middle school STEM room and the middle school vestibule, I think they're both very worthwhile projects, but it's not where we can just say, yep, that's what we had discussed, we're going to go ahead and move forward with it. I would recommend that at this point that we're going to pull them back just a little bit, go through the assessment piece, the building or the district-wide assessment, and then just determine where they fit in with the rest of the projects that we're going to be doing. So I have no doubt that we'll eventually take care of those things, but they're the price now where maybe we want to look at, particularly with one, maybe look at maybe a different option rather than renovating a room. Maybe it's something else. So, so anyway, that's where we sit right now. And then just another reminder that the first performance, the first official large performance in our auditorium is on October 29th and 30th. So we will do something beforehand, right before the show. So board members, if anybody can be there with your spouses or your family, like, let me know. We'll make sure that we'll get a little presentation put together first, mostly just coming up on the stage, welcoming people and et cetera. But we do want to make sure that we mark this occasion of the first official performance in that space. So play sounds like it's going to be pretty funny, so I'd recommend if you can make it to let me know. And then that's about it.
Okay. We'll go on to our discussion item, 7.01, first and final reading of board policy changes due to the legislative changes from IASB.
Yep. And so, anytime the legislator makes changes to any law or code, IASB goes through and they make all of those changes for us, so that way we are in compliance. That's why we subscribe to IASB's, they call it the legal services, so that way we can make sure that we're in compliance. So the recommendations that you see, if my computer will load it. I don't know. Taking its sweet time. Hold on one second. I guess I'll just look up there. So the first one is for, if you go back to the first one's child abuse reporting. So the main thing here is it's no longer just child abuse reporting. They now make us do dependent adult. So it's just kind of making sure that language is correct in there. The next one is our request for remote learning form. We don't really have remote learning requests as an option anymore. We do still have homebound placement if it's absolutely necessary, but other than that, that's just required by law. But other than that, we just don't really offer that home-based option anymore. If that's something that students really desire, there are some great online options through the state that they can look into. We just don't have the personnel to be able to do it and do it well. I think we may do, but I don't know that we would consider that to be at the level of instruction that we typically provide in person. So the next one is school day. So in regards to the school day, they just took out that remote learning opportunity piece again. So, and then the last one is capital assets, and maybe Andrea can speak to this one a little better than I think it's just mainly cleaning up the language in there. Is that right?
Yes, and there is a new GASB 87, so it has to do with leases and how they are considered on capital assets. So it is a requirement for us to follow GASB 87, and I will leave it at that, as Jen also knows about how GASB can be a little boring to explain.
Okay.
Is there any questions? Any discussion? It's really out of our hands since it's
Yeah,
legislative changes.
it's not really I mean, you could vote no, it just,
Right, it's still going to pass.
Still law,
because
so,
right, we
yeah.
have to follow the law. We do that. Okay, then we'll go to 7.02, approval of club sports.
So there are a few new clubs that we're going to recommend, and those are the Middle School Leadership Club. So that club, you guys can look through their descriptors, but that club's been meeting for a while. A couple of sponsors have been providing opportunities for students to learn about leadership opportunities. It's during the school day, but then it's also in the evenings, and they do some activities. And then the Middle School Titan Plastics Club, this one they meet on a regular basis, and they put out, this is where they kind of put their practice that they've learned in the classroom to use, and they're actually making products that they're using to potentially, sell or make useful products or for the community. So it's just a kind of a cool thing. They've been doing this for a while as well. And the last one is LCTV, and this is the, again, it kind of originated in the classroom, but as any good program kind of sprouts wings and takes off, it now requires a lot of extra work because they're at night activities, they're at sporting events, they're doing other events. They're just, they're a lot. And so at that point, when we start looking at clubs, we start looking at what is the time commitment outside of school, and then what is the need for additional sponsors. Everybody does stuff outside of school, but when things happen in an organized and consistent manner, and it's then that's when we start considering the club model. So, and essentially what it does is it gives them maybe some more leverage to get students to be involved, for one. Number two, it helps them when they're trying to go out and fundraise or do anything they're trying to do for their program. They're actually a club now, so it gives them a little more meat behind that conversation. And then it does allow us to pay the sponsors a couple, it's not much, but it gives them a little bit extra to pay them for their time that for some of these clubs have been doing for years. So, and then the other one is girls wrestling. So with the change at the state level to start girls wrestling, we need to adapt as well. And so essentially by making it a sport ourselves, again, it just kind of puts the meat behind it. We've had girl wrestlers here for a long time and very successful girls wrestling, but now they're not housed underneath the boys program. Now they have their own program. And then really what it means for us as far as additional expenses is it just requires us to, we would anyway, we've already been in the process of hiring some additional assistant coaches to help out with varsity, and then a couple of additional coaches to help out with junior high, depending on numbers. Right now, the plan is we would keep one head wrestling coach to kind of oversee both programs until we know more about how it's going to develop. So, so that's where we're sitting at right now.
How many girls do we have right now, do you know?
So they're anticipating up to 30 girl wrestlers in high school and well over 20 at the middle school. So, I mean, for the start of a program, that's pretty phenomenal. And so that's where I've heard anywhere from 20 to 40. So at this point, it's one of those, we'll kind of adapt, you just go slow to go fast type
Right.
of scenarios where as long as we keep, the head coach that's kind of overseeing both programs, maybe in the future, we would determine that, this really needs its own head coach and et cetera. But right now, we just kind of said, let's kind of take baby steps because it's brand new.
Right.
So,
Right. Okay. Any questions? Any discussion? Okay, we'll go.
Opportunities.
yep.
Absolutely. All right, we'll go on to 7.03, acceptance of abstract of votes for 2022 PEPL vote.
And I believe this is, the board just needs to accept the outcome, is that correct?
Yeah.
That is correct. So the votes were 239 in favor and 28 against, for a total of 267 votes.
Okay. Any questions? Okay. 7.04, schedule of architect interviews for facility assessment and planning.
So you guys have in front of you, I gave you kind of, this was what the invite looked like. We did send it to, we're gonna invite 4 different firms based upon a variety of factors, including, projects that they have done, around the immediate area and around the state in regards to both instructional environments and sporting environments. And then all these firms have also communicated a sound plan for providing a comprehensive assessment that they can lead us through and help us to develop our comprehensive facility plan, so we know kind of where we're moving in the future. Right now, my recommendation would be to, on next Monday night, on October 10th, to start at 5:30 and have CMBA Architects at 5:30, Shive Hattery at 6:30, Site Logics at 7:30, and then close with BCDM at 8:30. So 4 firms offering varying resources and methods. And so just that between these 4 firms, they'll cover all the options. So, and then at the end of the night, you can either deliberate and try to determine which one you think would be the best. You guys can say, we need to go back and find a couple additional firms you want to interview. You guys can sleep on it. We can have another meeting in the future. You guys can decide. So there's nothing to say that night you have to necessarily pick, but it's just a good night to kind of listen to what everybody has, ask questions. It's pretty quick presentations. I've told them about a 45-minute presentation and about 10 minutes for question answer. And then that gives us a 5-minute transition period. And I will play timekeeper that night and basically just make sure that they understand how much time they have left. And in that brief 45 minutes, they need to kind of give you the history of their company, some of the projects, this overview of projects that they've completed, and then walk you through what the assessment piece looks like, and then kind of what potentially their fee structure, or if we were to partner with them, what we can expect in that regard. And then that's about it. That'll probably be more than enough for their 45 minutes. So.
Okay. We should reach out to the rest of the board to make sure
Yep.
that we have,
Yep, I sent
People are
this
gonna
to
be-
you electronically as well, and so,
I guess if board members aren't going to be there, we need to let you know.
yep, just kind of let me know. It will be a board work session, so, it is an open meeting. It's just because of the board work session piece. I don't know that it makes sense to necessarily have an online version, just because it's just so long. It's 4 hours. So
Right.
my recommendation would be, if anybody really wanted to, it is an open meeting, but at the end of the day, for us to broadcast it live would just it'd be a lot. Josh would have to sit here for a very long time, so.
Okay, we won't make him do that.
So, but yeah, we will run it like a board work session, and so,
Okay,
but I will touch base with the other 3 as well.
okay. Any questions?
And there is no,
Action on this?
there is no action on it. It's
Right.
more or less, this is kind of where we're going to run forward with, so.
Right, okay. Then we have 7.05, open enrollment application request. Per Iowa code, we are allowed to have this in closed session. So with that, can I get a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mr. Wylage,
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks,
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel? Yes. Mrs. Sheffel?
Yes. All right, as soon as Okay, we are out of closed session, and mic's on? All right. We are out of closed session, and the next time in our agenda, comments and suggestions. This is the second time that anyone in our audience or online can address the board. And hearing nothing, we'll go to our action items. And I know, Bob, you're usually all over the motions, but it's probably easier to have those in attendance here to make the motions. So with that,
That's great.
okay, with that, we'll go to 9.01, first and final reading of board policy changes due to legislative action, or legislative changes.
Madam Chairwoman,
Ms. McDaniel.
I make a motion to approve the first and final readings regarding the following policies due to legislative changes as recommended by IASB. The removal of policy 501E9E1, request for remote learning form and revisions to 402.2 child abuse reporting, 601.2 school day, and 802.4 capital assets due to legislative changes.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mr. Hendricks,
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel,
Yes.
Mr. Rutledge,
Yes.
Mrs. Sheffel.
Yes. 9.02, approval of club sports.
Madam Chairwoman,
Mrs. McDaniel.
I make a motion to approve the addition of junior high and high school girls wrestling as official sports and middle school leadership club, middle school Titans Plastic Club, and LC Live Club as official clubs.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mrs. McDaniel,
Yes.
Mr. Rutledge,
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks,
Yes.
Mrs. Sheffel.
Yes. 9.03, acceptance of abstract of votes for 2022 PEPAL vote.
Madam Chairwoman,
Mrs. McDaniel.
make a motion to accept the abstract votes for the physical plant and equipment levy vote.
Second.
Any discussion? Except to thank all the voters who came out to support Lewis Central.
Absolutely.
That's one thing that Lewis Central doesn't have is a lack of supporters, so that's great. Vote, please.
Mr. Rutledge,
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks,
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel,
Yes.
Mrs. Sheffel.
Yes. 9.04, open enrollment application request.
Madam Chairwoman,
Mrs. McDaniel.
I make a motion to deny the open enrollment application for the student application.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mr. Hendricks,
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel,
Yes.
Mr. Rutledge,
Yes.
Mrs. Sheffel.
Yes. Items of interest, future board meetings, October 10th will be, next Monday will be our work session, starting at 5:30. Then the next regular board meeting will be October 17th. Anything else?
Yep, and the other thing is, just a reminder of the first performance, the play will be on the 29th.
And that's Friday,
That's,
right?
it's a Saturday night.
Saturday night is the
Yep,
first
is
performance?
the first performance, yep.
Okay.
Saturday night, and then a Sunday matin, like, kind of matinee, right, like 4 o'clock deal?
Okay,
I plan to be in attendance.
that's good to know. Usually it's Friday night, so,
Yes.
Well,
think
I would've
it's-
been
I
early.
think they're trying to, I think there's one more football game that night.
oh, gotcha. All right. All right, anything else? Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You can stay? Bye.